You're watching Alaska's news source.
Well, tonight we begin a special series of reports called Across Alaska to see how communities are recovering after months of dealing with COVID-19. Anchorage took its share of knocks during the pandemic, thousands of people losing their jobs and whole industries shuttered. But as Maxwell shows us tonight, things are slowly turning around.
All right, hello, welcome to Tia's. What can I get for you guys today?
Tia's Gourmet has been serving up reindeer dogs in downtown Anchorage since 2012.
Here is me with my reindeer hot dog.
Owner David Vargas says business has always been good. That is until COVID closed them down.
Our operation was reduced to zero last year, unfortunately. But in the same time, we understand because the COVID-19 was around everywhere.
Signs of the toll the pandemic has taken are still here.
But when I look around, the streets still seem pretty empty.
Pretty empty, yeah.
But the head of Visit Anchorage points out there are also signs of life.
We're hearing about bookings, so there is optimism.
The tourism industry has new funding to lure visitors back to the state. But Julie Sapi says there are still challenges for Anchorage businesses. For a second summer, they won't be counting on cruise ships. Despite recent legislation that allows sailings to Alaska, there are concerns the cruise lines won't go beyond ports in Southeast.
For South Central Alaska, the language is for round trips, and so it's very likely that we won't see any of the cruises here in 2021.
Still, UAA economics professor Muhsin Gutabi thinks the city's worst times are behind it.
The big question is, how quickly do we get back to pre-pandemic levels?
Gutabi says some industries like construction and healthcare are already bouncing back. Others may take longer.
Economic recoveries in general are not straight lines, and this certainly will not be one.
Then there's this. Restaurants and bars shed plenty of jobs when emergency mandates kicked in. Some even closed their doors. But here at the Beartooth, business seems to be booming.
The wait lists definitely show that people are antsy to get in and see us.
The biggest challenge for this industry is finding enough people who want to work. The Beartooth says when they do get up to staff, another positive, the movie theater that closed during the pandemic.
We will be showing movies again this summer. The sooner the better. Okay. The sooner the better. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Will also be open again.
Now, one thing we're hearing again and again is how grateful businesses are for the support of local Alaskans. They say it made the difference in a really tough year, and it's giving them hope for the one ahead. For Alaska's News Source, I'm Lauren Maxwell.
And all this week, we'll be taking a close look at communities all across Alaska to show you how some of them are slowly coming back. We have more tonight in our special series called Across Alaska. We're seeing how Alaskans are recovering from the economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Cruise ships are coming back to Juneau, and they will make a difference. But as Sean Maguire has learned, not everyone will be made whole.
It's been a tough year in Southeast Alaska. Cruise ships didn't come last summer, and neither did chum salmon.
Last year's fishery season was almost unprecedented, at least going back to at least the 70s.
But Juneau's fortunes may finally be turning around. We learned that some cruise ships are set to start arriving in late July, probably around 6 a week, but not at full capacity.
Anecdotally, we know that the remote lodges and lots of our B&Bs are, in some cases, booked solid.
There's also a shortage of rental cars, mirroring a trend seen across the country.
That's an indication that people are making those plans to come into Juneau and into Alaska to enjoy what we have.
The loss of a 2020 cruise ship season saw a $10 million hit to Juneau sales tax revenue. That represents around 20% of the city's total. A late cruise ship season could be an unexpected boost as other spending ticks upwards.
But we did have reasonably good sales tax returns for the January, February, March period, higher than we expected, which does indicate probably that the situation is improving slightly faster than we thought it would.
Some business owners are very excited to see ships come back.
We lost almost all of our staff. We're pretty much down to owners.
Darren Boutan was forced to let go 43 of 50 staff last year. He can now start planning to hire some of them back.
And it's a good start to get things going again, to restart the cruising and hopefully be ready to go full speed next year.
Other business owners say a shortened season may not be enough. Risha Wilson is a part owner of 5 waterfront restaurants, 2 of which will stay closed.
Oh no, a 10-week season would not justify the cost of ramping the business up and the cost of ramping the business down.
But again, there's optimism for next year.
We didn't build this business overnight, and we're not going to rebuild it overnight.
The travel industry now employs around 20% of Juneau residents, a big change from 15 or 20 years ago.
Juneau went from being an economy that was principally dominated by state government.
Last year, that change may not have felt so wise, but this year it could pencil out.
We may see a really big finish to the season that we just didn't get at all last year.
And this forecast said the fish got the message about coming back to Juneau too.
This year, the expectation is there'll be more fish coming this way. The prices are starting to boost up a little bit.
A little boost goes a long way. Southeast, the hardest hit region in the state economically during the pandemic, might be turning the tide.
You know, I think that finally there is a sense of cautious optimism that is starting to emerge.
Reporting from Juneau, Sean Maguire, Alaska's news source.
Well, all across Alaska, the pandemic and the resulting restrictions cost the state millions of dollars. Tonight, we look at the impacts in Kenai and the slow recovery.
When you're in the Kenai Borough, if you're hungry for more than just seeing wildlife.
Hey, fellas. How are you doing today?
Stop by Louie's and order a meal from Mother.
I kind of take care of everybody here.
For 10 years, Karen Childress has worked the counter and the customers. The fish and chips is the most popular dinner.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
But like all the employees here, she lost her job a few months ago when the pandemic forced shutdowns.
I was laid off. Well, it has to be one of my favorite jobs. I've had it for 10 years now. The owners are like family.
It was lousy. It hurt us badly. One of the worst days of my professional life was laying off 47 staff members. That's the bad news. The good news is one of the greatest days of my life was hiring 45 of them back.
Everyone is ready to be back to normal.
And it was tough.
Because coronavirus meant fewer visitors, less money, and hotel bookings haven't returned.
The restaurant business, at least in Kenai, Alaska, has come back very, very well. The hotel business, not so much. There is definitely a noticeable difference in the amount of hotel rooms that we rent.
Well, it was significant because I think we lost a number of businesses. It's really...
Tim Dillon with the Kenai Peninsula Economic Development District says millions of dollars in sales tax were lost during the coronavirus restrictions. He says 70% of the businesses here have 5 or fewer employees, and that CARES Act money and the Paycheck Protection Program saved countless jobs.
That would account for approximately $198 million from the middle of last March to this past December. So around $200 million that if we didn't have, we really would be in trouble.
You know, I've always said that...
The borough mayor says he supported the coronavirus mandates at the start of the pandemic, but now he wants to move on.
We need to manage COVID now, just like we did the flu. I think so. I think that, yeah, there's going to be some real stringent cases where our loved ones are going to get it and they're going to suffer. It could end in a death. But I've also heard from some medical folks that you don't have to die from COVID.
According to the state, back in November, the Kenai Peninsula Borough had a COVID spike. The Central Peninsula Hospital says it hit a peak of COVID patients in November with 16 people, and it was forced to use a separate area of the hospital set up especially for anyone who tested positive for COVID. Today, the infection rate is much lower, and 33% of the population is fully vaccinated.
I think we're gearing up for a great summer. Are things going to be different? Yes.
Okay, and would you like that with French fries, potato salad, coleslaw,
different, but with familiar faces and a desire to serve up better times.
This might not be your normal,
yes, you're welcome,
but it's definitely our normal.
And across Alaska, the state is seeing signs of recovering after pandemic restrictions and concerns about people getting sick. Tonight, we take you to Nome, a place famous for the Iditarod finish and what it stands for.
Tide is changing.
Nome is an interesting community.
The ice disappears from the Bering Sea. Lazy summer days under the sun are back. And the people of Nome are ready for good times.
I always say that you either love it or you hate it, and there's no in between.
In between winter of last year and now, the fight to stop coronavirus became intense. There were disagreements over COVID restrictions. It forced everyone away from each other. Now hope finally blows through. A majority of the people here are vaccinated against coronavirus. The mayor of Nome, John Hanlon, says it's starting to feel normal again after more than a year of losing money and uncertainty about people getting sick.
Everybody wants to get back to normal, and I myself personally believe that vaccination is the thing that's going to get us there.
Less than 4,000 people live in Nome, not including seasonal workers like Nate Strohmeyer, who was here just for the summer. His dredge is a converted school bus called the Ex-Wife.
Ex-Wife, she takes all the gold no matter what. She's always going to get the gold.
The crew will be out in the Bering Sea by the end of the week searching for gold.
Yeah, I live on the bus. So you can't really tell in there right now, but I'll show you.
Offshore bids to dredge here cost thousands of dollars, and you don't make money until gold is found. Today's price is more than $1,000 an ounce.
This is a split screen with 5 cameras underwater and sonar. And we sit in the recliner and we run all the hydraulic controls from the recliner.
Last year, Strohmeyer didn't make any money dredging. He's one of thousands here impacted by the pandemic during 2020.
Pretty much shut me down. I wasn't able to really come up in mine. And we weren't sure what was going to happen back home, if we were going to have enough money to continue to feed ourselves at home or come up here and work.
But perhaps hurt the hardest was the hospitality industry.
But at least now, since the vaccine came out, so it started to get a little bit better, but it's not like the usual, because usually summer here, we're really kind of busy.
Jelma Chang at Airport Pizza says the COVID restrictions and the shutdowns meant selling only to-go food and lost income because of fewer tourists. She says this summer will be different.
Compared last year, right now is much better. I think things are getting more better.
A better tomorrow and a place where the people are already seeing brighter days.
It grows on you, definitely.
And as of this afternoon, according to the state vaccine monitoring dashboard, the number of Nome residents aged 12 and older who are fully vaccinated is 68%.